the delegate from Fairfax, Delegate Watts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A point of personal privilege.
Delegate Watts, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues that currently represent the 100 seats that are chosen by the voters of the Commonwealth, I'd like to make a few personal observations. In 2001, my district was changed, and I received 40% change in district as I got to know a lot of new best friends and good buddies. In 2011, I was assured that no problem, and I got over 40% new friends and new buddies. 40% 2 decades in a row. And as I have said, how in the world are people supposed to hold me accountable if they don't even know who represents them? And particularly in 2011, as in my case, my communities, my neighborhoods are very often subdivisions, as 60 people are cut off from the 2,000 neighbors that are part of that subdivision. Now, in 2001, it was pretty obvious exactly what happened, because I was the westernmost Democrat, and if you put the most Democratic strength into the eastern districts, then my district became significantly more competitive. But in 2011, even though I followed it as closely as I possibly could, looking at all of the public records that were available, it was not until almost a decade later, as I'm reading the court briefs, that I understand, light bulb goes on, that the whole idea of one man, one vote, 1% differential, wasn't done for some criteria, but it was done specifically to be able to use the smallest possible unit of subcensus tracts and pack blacks into as few districts as possible of influence. And by doing that statewide, it was hidden as to what the intent was. So this is why when I approach the votes on both the procedural vote on House Bill 1256, where we can start July 1 on redistricting, and the constitutional amendment that was drafted last year, which does not start until November 15th by the deadlines, I come away extremely concerned. And with a lot of soul searching, we'll end up voting against the constitutional amendment with the strong belief that what we can do is laid out in HB 1256, what we can do with no excuses. Let me expound on that for just a little bit. Normally, the Constitution, you have to change it to do the right thing. There is nothing in the Constitution that keeps us from doing the right thing. What I am concerned about in passing the wording that was adopted last year, we will set into place in perpetuity a process that is closed. And that's the last thing that we want to do. Why do I say it's closed? Because the process that we will be setting in place for future generations doesn't start until November 15th, then there's another deadline that's January 1st, and then there's another deadline that is February 1st, and it isn't until February 1st when the commission finally sits down and names a chairman. Just 6 weeks later, the final census numbers will be before us. Just 6 weeks. And in that 6 weeks, all of those wasted months that have occurred before are designed, quite frankly, to perpetrate a process that is all staff-driven, and while it seems to be open, it is not open to public input. We can start under 1256 no later than October all of the steps that we have in the constitutional amendment will be carried out. You'll have the same selection as far as the bipartisan, nonpartisanship. All of those steps will be carried out, and by October 1st, we're up and ready to go, and throughout the Commonwealth, we can have an open process of public hearings so that we're really able to have that body understand what community of interests are as they are defined throughout the Commonwealth in their great variety. And with that, you can come up with potential outlines. I say that because I was first personally involved in redistricting in 1981, working under my mentor. I know what it's like to put all those blocks together. And you can have those potential blocks of community interest in several different drafts, ready to go with a lot of public input, openness. And then, when the final figures come out in approximately the April timeframe, then you can refine it. But meanwhile, what you are refining is an open public process, not setting into place this very closed system that will be staff-driven and hidden behind closed doors. And for people like myself, speaking in 2011, who tried their darndest, and you know that I'm a detail person, to understand what was going on in 2011, it was hidden. And that is what I cannot vote for as we move forward to the future. I hope that as you think about the people who will be sitting in your seats, elected by the people of the Commonwealth, that you too will not want to set this in granite, but instead will have your first loyalty to an open process. Thank you.
The delegate from Suffolk, Delegate Brewer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First, I want to just take a moment to raise actually a happy topic today. First, I want to thank my colleagues for voting for H.R. 146 yesterday.